Okay.
What up, guys? Jason Guyman here tonight. And tonight, you do not want to miss this one. This will be a great episode. I have a special guest on. I was actually on his show a couple weeks ago, and we did a lot of talking, and it didn't have anything to do with pressure washing and the end of the show, pretty much. And so it talked a lot about other things here, but I'm glad you're here. I'm hoping you have a great night. And so, again, this channel is brought to you by King of Pressure Wash, and this is what this interview will be about. And I don't know if I've got any. I do have people on here. Good. Awesome. I haven't seen no comments, guys. You guys are sleeping over here on me or something. So I don't know what's going on there. But hopefully the comments start coming and we get going here. So, again, this week, talk about a little bit about me, because that's what I like to do. There we go. What's up, Big Rob? So this week I am down another 2 or 3 pounds, and so that is an awesome goal. I'm down 61 pounds from starting my journey January 9th to now. And so if you can do hard things, that's the awesome thing about this business, this lifestyle. You can do hard things. And so if you don't think you can do hard things, you can do hard things. I've had some people message me this week and get on my channel and be like, you can't make that kind of money. You know, if you believe that, you are right. You won't be able to make that kind of money. And so you have to have, as someone said, whether you're doing business, whether you're doing health, the first thing you have to overcome is the 6 inches between your ears. And that's probably the hardest thing for most people to overcome. Before we get started here, let's see who we have in the house. We have, what's up, Big Rob? How are you doing? He is out of Jersey. What's up, the Clash House in the house? Wash Family Wallace. Good evening, folks. We got Sean from, he's all the way from Newfoundland, way up there in Canada, eh? We got Brad. How's he going? What's up, brother? Dan with Powerhouse Power Wash. What's up, Jason? We got Pink Robin from Florida. How are you doing? With recovery and God, our lives, anything is possible, and that is so true. We'll be talking about that. Servant Soft Wash asks congratulations on the wash. Filled out the text notification, never miss a live now. Works great. Awesome. Yes. And if you didn't know that, you can actually text this phone number here that as soon as I figure out where it is, you can text King, K-I-N-G, to 859-696-1101, and that will get you, I will send you a text so you do not miss my lives. All right, enough about Jason. Let's find out, who do I have on here? Tell me a little bit, Josh, about who are you, where are you from, and all of that good stuff.
Hey, Joshua Brown here, known as the pressure washing pastor, right outside of Nashville, Tennessee. Been married for about 25 years this month. 6 kids, all the way from 21, 19, 17, 15, 6, and 1. Radically saved at the age of 19 from being a drug dealer, pothead, high school dropout. Went back to school, got a GED, pastoral ministries degree, Christian counseling. And then I Googled top 5 businesses to start for 5K or less. And here I am today talking about pressure washing. And so I oversee Brown's Pressure Washing with one of the best teams on the planet here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Now, you just spit out a whole lot of stuff right there of what you did and everything. So let's break that down. First off, 6 kids, that's a lot of family right there. Talk about, let's talk a little bit about being a pastor and trying to raise 6 kids, because I'm sure that's not cheap, correct?
They ate a lot of food, and which is why I had to open up a pressure washing business, because the pastor's salary wouldn't afford taking care of these kids.
So you said at the age of 19, I know a lot of people struggle with this, of dealing with drugs and stuff like that. What were some things that you were able to get off of drugs and get you going into pastor life?
You're getting right into a heavy subject, Jason. And so first, it's an honor to be here tonight. thank you and I honor you for bringing me on. And when we talk about weed or we talk about drugs, we're talking about something that was a big part of my life for a few years. And it takes a little digging to get into the conversation, but in reality, I ultimately I don't know how much of the story you really want me to share, Jason. Ask me a specific question, and then that way I know where to go with it because we could go dark real quick.
I I'm okay with that because I know there's people out there that struggle with this, and I know there's people that have overcome it. And so, in the pressure washing world, I think a lot of times people don't look at this. And I know successful entrepreneurs, and they name their business after it, and they still do it, and they still struggle with this, right? And so, I think that as a business owner, this is one thing that can ruin a lot of businesses by not getting off of this. Or, I think too, a lot of times people don't think they can start or run a pressure washing business because they're addicted to something else. And so that's kind of reason why I'm hitting on the things that I'm hitting there. So
Yeah. Well, here's the philosophy. At 19, and I can go further back in history, but at 19, I'm a drug dealer, pothead, high school dropout. And following a friend of mine, I worked at Papa John's during the time. And so I was going to go smoke up before I went in to deliver pizzas on the night. So we were going back to my house. And my dope man, his name was Pookie. He had a 3000 GT Stealth. He ran a yellow light taking a left, and I followed him taking a left, only the light has turned red. There was also a Ford Ranger coming from the other side. We met in the middle. My car turned into a banana. It was a Honda Prelude, 410s, four mids, Alpine EQ. It was rattling my girlfriend's windows every time I drove by. Parents used to stick their middle finger out the front door when I went by. But I'm on my way to Papa John's to smoke up and get in a massive car wreck. That car wreck is the moment that I started feeling like I was wasting my life. And then I was listening to a Tupac Shakur song talking about a heaven for a G. And from the wreck to that song, I felt like God was saying, for the way you're living, Joshua, there's no heaven for a place like you. I'm just sharing how I felt about it. And from there, I ended up in the last night of revival. And revival is like a church service that lasts for like 7 days. And it was right outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And at that church service, I didn't hear God say, "You're a loser, you're going to hell, you're worthless." He said, a simple little, "Joshua, I love you." When he spoke that into my chest, I looked at my girlfriend at the time, and I was like, I wish the pastor would stop talking and invite me up to the altar because I was ready to give God my heart and the pastor my pot. And that's exactly what I did. And so I went forward and gave God my life. And the question that I had to answer from there is, what must I do to live a godly life? What must I do to honor the creator of the universe with his creation? And smoking weed wasn't part of the plan. I enjoyed smoking weed. I had a good time hanging out with friends. A lot of my friend group changed. I had to move from Winston-Salem to Greensboro just to get away from it. But at the end of the day, anything that had the ability to kill me from making an impact in the world, I had to kill inside of my life. And weed was not worth my relationship with God. And that's where I land. I know some people say, I got God and weed. You've got more than I got. For me, I couldn't have both. I had to serve one of them, and it wasn't going to be weed. And so I gave God my life.
and I was actually reading. This is another good book. I know a lot of people have started reading it. Also, 10x is better than 2x with Don or Sullivan, Dan Sullivan, and he was talking about this also. It wasn't about weed, but it was about smoking cigarettes, right? And how one of the guys that he did his landscaping and he did all the interior stuff, and he smoked like packs a day, and so he actually paid him to go to a ranch to get off of smoking. Now, he's like, you don't have to quit, but if you go, you do. If not, you just get 2 weeks vacation, and it's an awesome vacation. And what the guy found out was is he had to change his friend group so that way he could not be around it and surrounded with that. And so it's kind of the same thing with whatever we do. And sometimes it's to change your friend group even to get out of the poor mindset, the poor, the people that that you don't want to be around can cause us not to be exceptional when we're growing our business. Would you not agree with that?
No, I agree with it. And if Dan Sullivan recognized it inside of how to grow a company or a business, you've got to recognize that our lives only have so many things we can add to it. We should probably subtract anything that doesn't add to it. And for me, man, I was waking up at 11 a.m. and rolling blunts at a pool, and I'm like, this is it sounds cool, makes good television, but man, on the inside, it was empty. Like I could smoke all day and just not even feel anything anymore. And nothing competes with a relationship with God. And I wouldn't give up anything for that relationship. And so it took me a while. I had to repent from it several times. But
Nathan
event,
asked the question, was it only weed?
I had, for me, weed was my drug of choice, but cocaine, pills, once you're in the scene, there's a lot of different things. But if you gave me a choice between acid or, a tranquilizer, I just enjoyed the whole vibe. I used to listen to Wu-Tang Clan, Method Man, NWA, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and listen to and smoke up. So it was a whole culture, and that was better to me than listening to doing something else with other drugs. So for me, I played with it all, but weed was my lifestyle. It was my identity.
So then you found Jesus, and then you decided to become a pastor. And what made you decide that I wanted to start a pressure washing business as you were pastoring?
Yeah, so this is another good conversation, but it's a long conversation to be honest with you, Jason. But I I moved my family around 7 times in 22 years, working at different churches, and ministry and moving and roller coasters is challenging on a family. And I had always, at my last church, like 8, 9 years ago, I was dumpster diving inside of Kirkland's, still on welfare, to be able to provide for my family. And so, to be honest with you, it was probably a mix of 4 or 5 different things. It was being frustrated with being felt like I was growing the local church and not the kingdom of God through discipleship. And then I was also frustrated that I didn't know what would happen to me as I got older. If you follow the trajectory of student pastors, connections pastors, youth pastors, they age out eventually. And so I started to wonder, what am I going to do in the future to provide for my family? And so I Googled top 5 businesses to open for 5K or less. And I could have been snapping pictures of cats and dogs, but I didn't have a camera and I didn't like cats at the time. I do now. I've repented.
So how
Uh,
did you get started with starting a pressure washing business? Obviously, you didn't go buy a big $25,000 rig starting out of the get go.
So what I did do is I went down and worked with a friend of mine in Winston-Salem at Parker's Pressure Washing. He's a friend of mine. He let me work for about 4 hours with him, and he made $800. And I'm like, "Let's go!" I'm like, it would take me 2 weeks of tips to make $800. And I said I can do this, and I asked him if he would teach me. And so I grabbed a $300 boat trailer and converted it to a flat deck, painted the flat deck black. It cost me $350. And then I bought a free water tank, a 3,500 PSI, 8 gallon per minute pressure washer, because that's what he had, a chemical tank, a couple $100, a couple of hose reels, a couple of hoses, and I went to work with the next jet. And so I had maybe less than 7K, including marketing material, website invested in starting it open. And I pulled it with a Honda Odyssey van and put stickers on the van. It was my family's van. but that was 2016, and I only did it on the backside of off work or on Saturdays. So when I was off or on a Saturday, I would pressure wash, and that was 2016. And then I went full. Well, the business. I don't know if you want to get into numbers or anything like that, but
Go for it.
yeah, so I worked for the church for the next 4 years while running the pressure washing company. In year one, while working full time at a church, we did 225,000. We did second year 443,000. The next year 700 and change, 760 something. The fourth year, 2020, we did 900,000 and some change. And that's when I felt like it was safe to transition into the marketplace and then become a pastor inside of the company and inside of our community, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that is something that, I know a lot of times I've also got another friend, Josh Presley. He was a pastor and he came to one of my in-person classes and he was talking about how he's like, a lot of times you wouldn't even get paid or whatnot. And so one of the struggles that he struggled with is how to charge people, right? Because he's got a good heart and he always struggled how to charge. Now, he does live up in Ohio, way up there closer to Michigan, and not in Nashville where there's more money to know what to do with. But that you got stupid money down there. But even saying that, how many $99 guys down there because they believe that there's so much competition, and you got Brown's pressure washing over there, and he's got 1,600 5-star reviews. How am I supposed to compete with that? And so what would you say to somebody when someone is thinking those thoughts in their head?
Yeah, in regards to how to sell jobs or how to price well
How
versus
to
the 90.
price premium pricing and not be worried about everybody's competition.
Yeah, just be you. At the end of the day, people buy the individual, not just the numbers. And so, uh, I don't know if I've shared this with you, Jason, but we close 73% of our jobs on site estimates. And we're not the cheapest. We're not maybe not always the most expensive, but you basically price it out on how long ever you think it's going to take you. That's the way we've done it. So you create your number, whether it's $200-300 ish an hour, and say, when you look at a job, how long is it going to take you? And then price it out according to that number of $250-300 an hour to clean that service. But as a pastor, I probably was much like your friend. I was a horrible salesman. Yes, we did good numbers, but we were doing a lot of work, and I was selling things that we would never sell now because I loved people so much. So, you win Monopoly by buying every piece on the board until you go have no more money. And that's what I did. I just constantly won every single bid that I had, but I wasn't making sure I was making money. We brought a salesman on who knew how to do both and immediately started becoming profitable. And so, my encouragement to anyone that's listening, know your value, don't dumb it down. Create a standard of numbers across the board. If you're a $99 a house guy, man, move your prices up. Do everybody a favor. If you do $99 worth of work, the customer is going to complain. You're going to end up, probably getting more scrutiny. I feel like the higher level that you put your dollars, the more value that your customer thinks you are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a $1 drink and a quarter drink, for whatever reason, you think the dollar drink is worth more than the quarter drink. So, man, bring your value up, and then you can also become more profitable and make more money.
So that's I'm always on premium pricing because that's something that's what makes people either stay in business or go out of business. And I've been dealing with some people that are struggling. They're doing well, but they're not making money. And just because you hit $1 million don't mean you're making money, especially if you don't know your numbers. Especially when you're hiring people and you've got employees. How many trucks are you running right now, Josh?
7 to 8, depending on the day.
So 7 to 8 trucks, if you're not careful, you'd be losing money if you wasn't paying attention to your numbers and knowing the costs are, and even when you're first starting out, a lot of times we don't go down our number route because we just think it's a number, and that's a problem, right? And so knowing our numbers is definitely something. And if you don't know your numbers, find somebody that's good at numbers. Look for that C type personality that loves numbers and geeks out on that stuff. And they'll tell you where your numbers are at that point. You don't have to know everything. It's finding the right people and putting the right who where we need to put it at. And so as we grow this business and as we scale it, it is definitely things that we need to do. So let's scoot back a little bit and talk about how did you get off the truck and start putting people in place and trusting people and hitting those things.
Yeah, so I didn't have an option. I was working a job for the first 4 years of the business, and working at a church which had over 500 people in it, and so I had a ton of responsibility at church. I had family at home. I'm not going to sacrifice that. So I had to invite other people into the company, and I wasn't that picky. Really, the only thing I was really looking for is great character. And so if I could find somebody with great character, I would invite them to provide. And I mean, to me, it's really creating a story or inviting people into a narrative. And so for me, I saw people all around me. They're in the youth group, in the college age group. There's people looking for jobs all around us, but they're not looking to work at a job that SUCKs. They're looking for a job where they feel like they're valued, where they're going to make decent money, and they understand that they're making a difference in the world. And so Patrick Lencioni wrote a book, Three Signs of a Miserable Job. And as a business owner, I had to know what the miserable signs of a job were and then create the exact opposite of the culture inside of here. And so that means I had to make sure I was a decent human being to work with. And so if you're a jerk or a butt, it's going to be really hard to invite people to come work for you when you're going to treat them like a slave. For me, I was inviting people into a journey. And so this is a long conversation, but I'd say this: the way I see we've grown Browns is I'm not the owner of Browns. God owns our business, and I'm at the bottom of the org chart. And my goal is to support every single thing that's up inside of it. And so when we bring somebody on, they're the main deal, not me. I'm like, how can I love you, serve you, pray for you, encourage you, not just provide a job for you, but how can I help you be the best version of yourself? And you're making those promises when you invite people into a journey and a story. We've never hired on Indeed, never been on Facebook, never had to say, hey, we're looking for help, because people are wanting to come work here because we've created community and culture, which people care more about than cash. People will leave a six-figure income job to come work at a place where they feel cared for and valued. So you have to be a person that cares about other people, not just yourself. Does that help at all or no?
Absolutely. And that's things that people don't realize, right? Because people are like, well, I tried to pay them this or I tried to pay them that. And what I always tell them is you got to become a good leader, because if you can't lead, nobody's going to follow you, right? And what's a good leader? Not a manager, but what's a good leader? They're going to put the team first. They're building that team culture. They're doing those things that you need to do to actually grow and scale a business, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jocko Willens, but he wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. And if people don't want to work with you, it might be because you're not taking ownership of the problems that are taking place in your business. And so if we set a house on fire, if we killed someone's dog, just kidding. If we did something that broke a trailer, the fire hydrants shooting all over the place, if crazy's happening, I'm not yelling at them saying, "What have you done? Why didn't you do this?" Blah blah blah. I'm saying, "Hey, this is on me, guys. Let's figure out how to get through this." And I'm taking the tension of the situation off of them, putting it on me, and taking complete ownership inside of whatever comes, because the team that we're working with is going to decide whether they're going to continue to work with you, depending on how you handle a situation when they end up making a mistake or when something bad happens. You just got to love them, take responsibility, and keep moving forward. Yes, have hard conversations, but at the same time, we have to take complete ownership for every failure that takes place in our company and not blame somebody else for a problem that takes place in the company.
Yeah, how can we fix that? Whether that's in training, whether that is whatever we need to fix to get it so it don't happen again.
Yeah.
Um, hey Jason, sorry I've been a long couple of days. I wanted to hit on this a little question someone did here that's a pretty cool win. Thanks for the information about the carnival. 90 days down, 40 pounds off of all of my meds. Take type 2 diabetic, high blood pressure, obesity, all in the past. Doctors can't argue the results. Thank you. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Taking action and things happen. And it doesn't matter whether it's in business or health. And that's awesome, Richard. That is freaking awesome that you were able to do that. And I don't believe that you're going to stop there. I believe you're going to keep going. And that is freaking awesome. So so as you have grown and scaled, what have been some problems or issues that you have ran into growing your business? Or
Yeah,
has it
maybe.
just been all peachy and roses and no issues?
No, I'd say there's been, if you've got $1 million business, you've got $1 million problems. And so as we've scaled, our problems have gotten bigger, from lawsuits to trying to make sure everything is labeled. We know the chemical data sheets to proper storage to making sure mushroom bombs aren't exploding in the chemical room. There's always issues that are taking place. Have you ever smelled a mushroom bomb?
Oh yeah, I have.
And so everything from labeling things properly to training properly to what killed us in the past, the thing that has been the most frustrating is last year we were on scale to make 1.5 million where we're at, and there was no profits coming through, and it was because my pay scale was out of whack. I had set up a commission and a performance base bonus inside of the business that was killing the business. And so I had to address that, move things around, and then move to what's called a solo truck versus two men in a truck. That way, both people, because I wanted to provide for the guys, I wanted each guy to make over 50K a year minimum and then be able to make more if they're able to upsell and blah, 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 get reviews. But two guys in a truck and
Kills it.
trying to help both of them to get that kind of numbers was absolutely wrecking it. And I wasn't paying attention on the early because so much money was coming in. But when the Ukrainian thing dropped and the gas prices went through the roof and then things went down a little bit as far as people getting pressure washed, it was depressing being the owner of a $1.5 million pressure washing company that had no money. And so it was super, super challenging. But we can talk about.
Let's talk about that because that is a real struggle of just because you're doing 1.5 million and you're not making no money, right? And you know you do have to identify those issues. When I ran my business, I did only do one person per truck, also, just because the cost of the you could do one person and get $1,500 a day, and if you're lucky to get 2 grand out if you put two guys on the truck. So you're not really making more money for that second guy on the truck. We did have a second guy on one or two trucks just for if there was a roof clean or safety issues that we could throw them for that truck. But identifying that you had an issue and seeing that you had a problem that we're doing 1.5 million and the profit isn't there, and it is true, right? I mean, you could do 1.5 million and 1.4 is going right back out the door, 1.5 is going right back out the door, correct?
You got it. And so big numbers don't mean big profits. Dialing in your labor, your services, so you can understand your cash flow is key if you're trying to understand how to make money. And so, in Nashville, it might say like, "Hey, Brown's Pressure Washing, they're the real deal." But there were guys that were solo operators that was probably making more money than I made because once you grow big, you've got salesmen and operations and different productions and all these different pieces, and then you've got so many expenses with all the different trucks and gas, and everything costs money the bigger you get. I like being big. I like providing for people, but not at the expense of killing your company, because if you kill your company, you kill everybody in the company.
If
Yeah.
anybody's got any questions for Josh, don't hesitate to ask. Nathan asked a question: do you do lights?
Yeah, we started lights last year. Basically, we opened up an outdoor lighting company and we started Christmas lights. And so we did 65K last year. Went down to Clippa, and if I'm allowed to say that, we went
No,
there
no, we
and
don't
yeah,
like Clippa.
I made a bad decision, but they were here in Nashville, so it made it super convenient. And we learned the game, and we absolutely love it because it ends up feeding our outdoor lighting company, where they're able to do a job every other week just from the Christmas light jobs. And so the answer is yes, and it's profitable. About 28% profitability if you run it right. Jason, you may have different experience, but that's the numbers that I'm kind of working with.
Yeah, I always say about 30%. Usually you're about 30% labor, 30% cost of material, and then 30% profit. But now your second year, you're not into, um, your labor or your labor cost is still there, but your cost of goods is not there. So
Yeah. So we started it. I was hesitant because I had chatted with folks inside of our networking group, and they said all of their injuries had taken place from guys hanging Christmas lights. And so I was like a little bit hesitant on it. But now that we've started and take extra safety and precaution, it's something that we're going to continue to do.
yeah, and I love Christmas lights. It's fun. I mean, it's probably one of the funnest things that you do, and seeing people's lights light up and lights light up and everything else. Tell me a little bit about how did you? Obviously, you started with a little bit, but how did you get your customers in the beginning?
Yeah, so I understood the Facebook game pretty quick. And so if you utilize Facebook, every Facebook city or community has Facebook community pages. If you're in Raleigh, if you're in whatever city that you're in, find out what all the different community pages are in your community, join them with your Facebook page, and find out what day of the week you're allowed to share information about your business. Every Friday here in Nashville, we have 39 shares to all these different pages, from Mount Juliet to Nashville to Brentwood to Franklin to Hendersonville to Gallatin. And we're just sharing everything free. The only thing it costs is time, no money. That was number one. Number two was I was a door hanging fool. And so if I had one job, the neighborhood is going to get door hung as soon as I got done with the job, because I was hungry. I didn't have 1,000 reviews. I didn't have money for Google ads. I didn't even know what Google ads were back then. It was like, Angie's List and Yelp and all these different advertiser and home advisor. And I didn't know that I was helping them grow their business when I spent money on them versus me growing my business. Now I know how to grow the business, so I don't spend money with them anymore. It helps their algorithms go up the chart, not my algorithms. And so very early on, door hangers that were killer and sexy looking. And then it was the Facebook marketing, where I wouldn't pay to boost any post. I would just share. And then the third thing I did was I shared my story everywhere I could. And so if I met somebody and say, hey, by the way, would you be interested in any pressure washing company? My family is trying to grow a pressure washing company. And so I'd share the story. And then I found out something about lunch and learns. Are you familiar with lunch and learns,
I
Jason?
am. I am.
Yeah, so for $32 of Panera bread, you can go to a real estate agency and basically share with them during their lunch and learns who you are and what you do, and then pass out business cards and bagels. And the next thing you know, you've got real estate agents. And then if they like you, they tell you about property managers. If they like you, they invite you to property management networking groups. And the next thing you know, you're doing five, six, $700,000 in property management groups, and it's all through business networking and relationships of handing a bagel to a lunch and learn.
Now that piece of information right there, the last minute, is worth $1 million. And
For
that's all
sure.
I've got to say about that. And anybody, the 50 some people that are on here, that is worth gold right there. Let's talk about that because I did a lot with property managers. That was how I probably have, three, 400,000 a year was with just property managers alone out of the million that we did, because that is where my money came from, and that's what I like doing. I got it through. We have a local apartment association, and they're very well there, and so that's how I was able to get into that network of people. But once you get into that network of people, it's an open door. I mean, you will have to get the right insurance. You have to have workers' comp. You have to have the right stuff to be able to get in there. But once you're in there, a lot of people don't know. A lot of people are so scared to death, right? A lot of your $99 guys, they are scared to death of that. Or what happens too sometimes is the big guys, they won't want the smaller guys, and so you can, even as a small guy, you can get in there and take that. What's a little bit more information that maybe might be worth a thing or two there?
Yeah, just if you're trying to grow your business, um, Jason, I've been told that my risk meter is broke, that I don't feel or sense risk. And I'd met with a young man right before I came here about this dude is 22 years old, super sharp young man. He's bilingual. He understands drywall, how to build barnasiums. He can do it all, but he's scared to take the jump of what it takes to get there. And me knowing, Warren Buffett was asked the question, is there anything that you would give for all the money that you have today? And Warren Buffett said, how old are you? And he said, 27. He said, I would give every dollar I own to know what I know today and be 27 again. And it's because he knows that it takes money to make money, and you don't get scared, you get active. And when you put things in your own hands, you're more likely to become successful when your back is against the wall versus trying to be safe, manage every single dollar. It's like use your money, get the proper insurance, get the $1 million liability, get the proper worker comp, and step into the room and be confident that you're equal to be there. And so self worth and value and identity is all inside of there. Too many of us think too little of us when we need to realize we're just as valuable as anybody else in the room. And my story matters, and I'm going to share it with them. And they want to hear my story. And then I've got a service that I can end up providing for them. And so people aren't against us, they're actually for us if we end up sharing with them what we can do for them, if that makes any sense.
100%. A lot of times we think we're just a small little pressure washing company. All we do is spray water, right? And that's the wrong mindset. We are a successful business owner doing 1.5 million. You can be West and going to do 2.5 million or 3.5 total everything, right? Just a 28-year-old kid that's doing that. You know what else is cool about Warren Buffett too? He said the number one skill to have is talking about communication, right? And how you communicate with other people. And that's the number one skill to have. And that is something that I think a lot of people are scared to death of, is communication, and know how to talk and know how to build those relationships. Since this conversation, you've talked about how you talked about your customers and you build that relationship and how you're trying to build this family business. And that's what it's all about. It's not about going out there and selling pressure washing. We all want to go out there and talk about our 8 gallon a minute and talk about all of this. And I've been hitting on this hard here lately. It's not about the pressure washing, guys. It's not about the pressure washing, guys, for our employees, right? It's about building them up and caring for them and praying for them and loving them and doing whatever you need to do to make them successful.
Hey, Jason, let me give you a couple more nuggets. We've got 59 people, 60 people coming in. Let me give you two things that is worth the weight in gold of what I'm about to share. I see some I see a question there. Do you want to go there first, and then I'll go to my question, or you want me to
Yeah,
stick
go.
to?
Let's go to this question here. Do you use yard signs?
Yes, we use yard signs, and so we've gotten in trouble in the past on using too many yard signs. So you need to know the rules. But a good yard sign placed in the right spot for 6, $7 can bring you thousands of dollars worth of work. And so what we do now is we incentivize our team for every time they get a yard sign out inside of a home. And so we carry them around in the truck. We ask at the very end, hey, do you mind? And if it's super quick, hey, the customer's ready to let you go at the very end of the job. All you have to say after you close out the job is say, oh, by the way, like right before they shut the door, hey, do you mind if we put up a yard sign for about 5 to 7 days? It helps other people know who we did, know a little bit about us, and it'll prevent them from having to knock on your door to find out. And
Right.
by the time you're done talking, they're like, yeah, 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 that's fine. And so if you do it quick at the end, slide it in, it's very easy to do it. And then at the end of a neighborhood on a Friday night might be the best time to put it up. That way, by Monday, when the county comes around and starts snatching the signs, at least you have 2 good days of putting them up.
Right.
And then everyone goes to grocery stores. This is important to know. Everyone goes to grocery stores. Your clients are probably going to Publix or the nice grocery store in your area. Go to the nice grocery store and put up a couple of strategically placed yard signs until they tell you don't. But that'll at least get several thousand people to see your signs.
Not Walmart.
There are folks at Walmart, but for our average job ticket right now is $800, and so for us, that's going to be someone that's shopping brands
Right.
and not just a large chain,
No,
which
I
I love.
agree 100%. All right. What's your nuggets?
Understand Joshua Taylor. He taught at the Huge Conference. Which are we plugging in the Huge Conference here?
Nah, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I haven't plugged it too much. I will be there, but yes.
Yeah, and so Joshua Taylor taught understand the mind. This is a nugget. Understand the mind of a property manager. Understand the last thing that they want is an angry client blowing up their phone. If you know what a property manager wants, when you talk to a property manager about your company, all you tell them is what they want. And what they want is not their is for you to take care of their clients where they're not going to be getting their phones blow up. So if you meet with a property manager, say, listen, I know that your biggest concern and worry is having your phone blow up because some pressure washing company shot bleach underneath the door and ended up, disturbing survey. We are not going to let that happen. Our guys are trained to love the customer so you don't have to hear from your clients. If you let them know that, they're going to be calling you because the last thing they want is their phone getting blown up. They get stress and complaints all day long. Let them know you understand that struggle, and I think you can sell more jobs to property managers.
Well, you answered this question right here, right? A lot of property managers just want the cheapest bid. At least that's what I've been experienced. They go with the cheapest bid because they have the other bids that needs to be done.
Yeah, I disagree with them. They don't like you, So my guess is that, and I don't mean that honestly, but you've got to win your property manager, and the way you win your property manager is don't talk about the soaps, don't talk about the service. Find out what they care about, and talk about, hey, what's going on here? What's your biggest problem? When you ask the questions, they tell you the answers. Then you say one thing: I see what you see, and we're going to take care of it. We can absolutely do this. And then if they open the door, if you're at a property manager meeting and you're able to speak, don't talk about your services, talk about your story. And I do that at every single lunch and learn that we've done or property management meeting. This was the other nugget, Jason. If you're 61 people are still here, 60 people, all right. If you're going to be a great salesperson, know how to share your story in any situation. So I would build a great rapport with whoever I'm chatting with by sharing my story with them, and they really do care. if you can build a little bit of a relationship with them. And if you just bought $32 worth of Panera bread, you've got a captive audience for about 10 minutes. Spend 5 minutes sharing your story. Spend the last 5 minutes sharing what you do. They'll remember who you are and they'll know what you do, but they don't care really what you do. They really want to know who you are. So spend more time developing your story. I would always share, hey, and this is how I would lead it in and how I'd set it up. In a second, I'm going to share with you what our company does, which I'm sure you can figure that out. But more importantly than what we do is who's showing up and working for your customers. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. And I talked about my mom having me at 15, being homeless on the streets of Nashville, and understanding what it's like to be poor and understanding what it's like to have wealth. My goal is to serve their customer and their community and blah, blah, blah. So just know your story.
Well, and here's the thing about when we tell our story, right? It's the like the it's the they may have that same issue, right? They may have had the same things. And it's that likability, the same, and that goes back to know, like, and trust, and they'll buy from you. And the other part that he said earlier is knowing your pain points. A lot of people, we go in there and we want to sell pressure washing and we don't know their pain points. We don't know that the customers are up their butt because they got bleach in last time or they broke all the fittings or whatever that might be. And so when you know their pain points, when we do go for asking to sell, guess what? We're going to say, hey, you know what? We do this, this, and this to make sure the water don't get under the door, since that you said that was a problem last time. And these are things that we will do to take care of it, so that way you don't get those angry customers or have more issues because we screwed something up, and I don't want that to happen to you. And so this is important as we talk to them. I've been hitting on this with Chris and a couple other people of finding out how that person ticks, knowing their personality traits, knowing their love language. And if we take those few minutes and we can learn that stuff and figure that stuff out quickly, it will help us in the end. If I know that person's a touchy type of person, their love language is probably touch, and you got to be careful with this. But even if it's a female or something, you can go up and go side by side. Maybe you touch hands, maybe you touch shoulder, and just that one little touch can send you to get that job, yes or no, versus me standing back to back here in front of them, because that might not be. Or maybe I know their love language. I figured out their love language is words of encouragement or affirmation, right? They love to be poofed up and all of that, because I see that they drive this nice $100,000 car. I can kind of guess that that's probably their love language. Guess what? I can talk about that, and that'll stroke that love language, and it works, guys. I promise you. You can get higher tickets, whether it's residential, commercial. It doesn't matter what it is. It still works, and how we deal with people and what we're dealing with people. You know, I teach this stuff in my in-person trainings for a reason, because it works. Chris Johnson is getting his average ticket this year is like $2,000 average ticket, in-person quoting. I don't know if you're doing in-person quoting. I think you should be having higher tickets than what you got. I've got other people that are doing, average ticket of $1,500, $1,800 that are doing in person. I've got people that aren't doing it in person and getting those too. So it is definitely a big thing, a reason why I've been teaching this in my in-person classes. It isn't because I think it's all lovey-dovey and feely good stuff, but this is how we're able to get higher tickets. This is why I put females on the phone of answering the phone, because they don't talk about the 8 gallon a minute pressure washer and the soaps that we use and the liability insurance we use. They're talking about their kids. They're talking about whatever else. And guess what? They'll buy from you. That's the amazing thing about this. It's not about the pressure washing. And you know what I love about this in the very beginning of it and talking about employees? It's not about the pressure washing. It's about the personality. It's about they want to come work for you.
Yeah, and so I was probably a little cruel on the one gentleman who asked about pricing, and I don't know what city he's in. And I do know based on your city, you can have different experiences. But let me share maybe a few other ideas. If you're always getting outpriced or you're getting feedback on it, don't hesitate to chat with the property manager and say, listen, I know I'm getting outpriced, but we've got to compare apples to apples. Is it possible that I can just wash your house for free? Can I show you the service that we end up taking care of? Because I want you to know that we will take care of you. And I know we don't always like doing free work, but if it's for a property manager, you may want to consider doing some free work. And then you can also add on something. So if you're getting outpriced, work on, hey, we will add on the signs at the front of the entrance plate for it, or learn from your losses and make it better. But if you win it and build relationships, you're going to end up winning more jobs over time. The reason I was so cruel in saying that, hey, they don't like you, is not, I was being funny, but in reality, if you learn to win the reputation, you'll end up being able to sell higher ticket, and you'll be able to win because the people on the board will know, no, I know Joshua. He ends up taking care of my grandma. He ends up taking care of this. One thing that we do in Nashville is we wash widows' homes in Nashville for free. So anytime that our sales team finds out someone was a widow, we just let them know, Mrs. Jones, we have a little program here where we wash widows' homes for free. They argue, they fight about it. It's just the house. It's not the roof, not the gutters, not the flat work. Just one little niche as we do the free house wash. When you start taking care of people in your community will end up taking care of you. And then that builds up the end game of having a reputation that exceeds $1,000 more on a $20,000 job. That person has a better reputation. They took care of my mom. I'm going to take care of them. I hope that helps. But if we do good in our community will do good for us.
I love working for a cause because that's an awesome thing. Whether it's, and I want to hear a little bit more about what you just said there about that. But, Jeremy Main doing Pink Pro Wash, right? Doing breast cancer because his mom died when he was 20, she was 40. What made you pull widows of doing widows' houses for pressure washing?
Last summer, Josiah LeBeau, our operations manager, is washing a lady's home. When he shows up at the house, he sees that the front porch has a wheelchair ramp that's on it, and it was green. And he said, Miss Jones, I noticed that your wheelchair ramp is getting slippery. Can we clean it for you? She said, no, my husband passed away. We won't need it anymore. He says, okay. He starts washing the house. He's listening to some earbuds, and all of a sudden he hears inside of his heart or mind, you say what you want to say, his soul, his spirit. And he said, give it away to the lady for free. He cleans up. He says to himself, will Josh care? No, he won't care. And he's like, okay. So he cleans the house. It's raining like crazy outside. He goes up to the door, knocks on the door, and says, Mrs. Jones, I'm finished with your housewife. She turns around, grabs a pile of cash and change, like dollar bills, and says, here you go. I got the money. And Josiah ends up saying, no, this one's on us. We're going to take care of you. He starts crying. She starts crying. And it's pouring down rain. And he says within himself, after as he gets in the truck, he said, I could do this the rest of my life. I would love to try to wash every widow's house in Nashville for free. He calls me up on a Saturday. I'm running and I'm listening to my pods. He says, I have a crazy idea. I've got a baby chicken. Don't step on it. That's his way of saying, don't smush my idea. He said, why don't we wash every widow's house in Nashville for free? And I stepped on his chicken. I said, we're going to go out of business trying to wash every single widow's house for free. I said, we've got labor, we've got insurance, we've got chemicals. Well, if you know how many people have or don't have husbands? I said, but I'll chew on it. I chewed on his chicken for a little bit of time. And on that run, it was a 2 hour run. On the way back, I remembered a quote that I heard in a leadership group. It said, do for one what you wish you could do for everybody. Just because you can't do something for everybody doesn't mean you can't do it for somebody. I called Josiah up and I said, just because we can't clean everybody's house doesn't mean we can't start with one. Let's start cleaning one house a week. And over the last year, it's picked up to two, three, four, and our guys are on it. They feel valued. We hear stories of widows telling other people about, hey, you won't believe about this company that I tried to tell them no, but they said, we're not going to let you pay for it. We're going to wash your house for free. They're taking care of us. Scripture also teaches take care of widows and orphans and keep yourself undefiled, which is what's called spiritual godliness or righteousness. And it's like that just made sense for us to say, okay, we're going to be about taking care of widows in our community. And it was not a marketing tool, although it sure does make a good name for yourself inside your community. And we want everyone that's listening, start something good in your area. And just because you can't do it for everybody, pick out one thing, whether it's veterans, whether it's widows, people with cancer. Do good somewhere. It's not just about you. It's also leaving a mark on this planet while you're here.
And it will 10x you. I promise you it will.
Yeah. Even if it's monetarily, really, like, even if you don't see a lot of monetary gain, the relationship aspect of it is massive. The team that we have, they feel like they're doing something of value when they're giving it away for free. It's like the widows will say, hey, I thought God forgot all about me, and then you guys showed up. It means something to do something for somebody else. That's valuable.
I love that. And I had seen that on your website. And I know talking to Debbie, or I think that's her name, that does cancer, the one that does the cancer cleaning for cancer. And she literally has grown her, that's what blew her business up. And cleaning for a cause, doing it for a cause, you get people want to come to work for you because of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you are helping other people, and it's not just about money at the end of the day. So all right. So this is way past Josh's bedtime. Just so you know, he stayed up for us. What's your routine? Let's hear a little bit of routine there.
So, just for clarity, I have 6 kids, okay, and I desire to live a long legacy. I want to live to be about 120. And so, in order to do that, I have to take care of my mind, body, and spirit. So, I wake up at 3 to 3:30 a.m. every morning, drink 31 ounces of water, drink some coffee, spend some time in silence, solitude, gratitude, and then I exercise for about an hour, hour and a half. And while I'm exercising, I'm listening to Dan Sullivan, Donald Miller, or anything else that I possibly can do. Shane GoDaddy Duffy just sent me a message and said he saw me on the show. Do you know Shane?
I do know Shane.
Yeah. So long story short, that's kind of my routine. And then like I'm some ideas for your group on how to find more team members. I don't call them employees. I call them team members. Uh, Go volunteer at a school and help coach a sport. Be an assistant. If you assist at a high school, you'll get to know folks and you'll find people all day long. Go serve at a community center. Go help out in a youth group, in a college group. If you do something other than pressure washing, you might find other people that are willing to come in and to provide for them. So those are some ideas of places to find people that we find people inside of the company. But throughout the day, after my morning routine, I'm done at 8:30. I help coach cross country and track at the local high school, so I'm toast by the time 8:30 gets here. So I go to bed at 8:30, wake up at 3:30.
So tell me where they can find you at. I put the Pressure Washing Pastor website on the bottom down here, but where else what else, if anybody wants to, if you want to give out any information, what's your play?
Yeah, thank you for that. And so if you go to pressurewashingpastor.com, you're basically going to see an invite. I'm looking to open up Browns all over the country. And so if you've already got a pressure washing company, you're probably not interested. But we're trying to brand out this every city needs a pastor idea. I feel like the home service business is an opportunity to serve, to make disciples, and to provide jobs. And so that's kind of the idea there. It would mean a ton if you just subscribe to our YouTube channel, Brown's Pressure Washing. From there, you're going to learn a lot. We share information from marketing to sales to leadership to cash flow to services and operation. And then if you want to see a website, visit us at Brown's Pressure Washing. I feel like we've got one of the sexiest websites. You can get some ideas if you're looking at ways to improve your website. If you have questions, feel free to just drop us an email, and we'd be happy to share with you different ideas on Google and Bing and different ways to grow your own business. Hey, Jason, we also have a mastermind Monday. I don't think that I shared that. Every Monday from 9 to 9:30, we go on live free, and guys can come onto the show and they just share whatever struggles they're dealing with. And then we end up answering any questions that they have. And I've got my sales manager, my operations manager, and myself there. So between the three of us, we can answer any question, and they can drop it in the chat as well.
Awesome. Go subscribe to Josh's channel. Again, don't forget, if you want in-person training, I have it coming up in July where you actually get hands-on, and we're also doing Christmas lights and permanent lighting on the Friday, and then all day Saturday I get y'all uncomfortable. Hopefully you don't like that, but I know that was what helps you. We actually make you stand up and talk to each other and learn how to talk to each other, because some of you don't know how to talk worth to save your life. And so we do that in the in-person training. Also, don't forget to sign up for King of I can't talk today. Talking about communication. Don't forget about King of Pressure Wash. If you have questions, different things, I go on my Zoom call where there's about 40 of us get on a Zoom call, so you can get on a Zoom call and talk and ask whatever questions you want. But other than that, thank you for coming out here. But before we jump off here, what is one book that has helped you grow your business?
I think if you've never read anything, start with The Advantage. You know, it might be just a classic starting point. Patrick Lencioni, told in a fable and then told in principles. If you've not listened to that book, that would be like the starting place of understanding what advantages one business has over another. It teaches the foundation. Hey,
And
thank you
then
guys.
go ahead, keep talking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to thank these guys for sharing. Thank you. I never did get to share the demon story from smoking weed and playing with the Ouija board and so forth. Maybe in the future we can unpack that story. You know, for another good reason to stop smoking weed.
What is one word of advice if you were just starting, if you had to start all over?
Find a mentor. And I mean that, you know, there's two thoughts in finding a mentor. Your mentor will teach you who they are, but they'll also help you reproduce who they are. And so find someone that lines up with your values, relationship, and also understands how to grow what you're trying to grow. And so my encouragement to your group, find somebody, one voice. Don't go on Facebook, you know, friends, and the next thing you know, you're listening to 1,000 different voices. Man, take Jason, take me, find somebody that can coach you along the way, and trust them, and stay there. I think a mentor is massively important, and finding one voice you trust.
Yep, I agree on that 100%. All right, Josh. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk at you later. But
Peace.
hang on.